Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner, and let's get on into it. So on the show today, we're going to be talking about Jim Ratcliffe's plans to be potentially buying more football clubs. Apparently, Manchester United is not the only club that he is interested in buying. This story broke overnight. We will be talking a bit about that. We'll also be talking a little bit about Casemiro and what's going on with him, with a major injury setback to discuss. Obviously, also doing a bit of a preview for the game against Copenhagen tonight. Massive match. 3 points is 100% essential. Quite a few other bits to get into as well. We've got some injury updates. We've got some news on Alessandro Martinez. We've got some news on a potential striker that might be coming in the January transfer window. Lots of stuff to get into. Please do make sure to get involved in the comment section. Please do get involved in the live chat and let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. So let's start out with this story about the striker, because I know that we've been talking about a striker for what feels like a lifetime. Everybody in the summer was saying, Rasmus Højlund, good signing, but we need more. Rasmus Højlund on his own is not enough. And I think we found that already. I think he's been struggling, not because he's not a good player, not because I don't like him, but because he's not been getting any opportunities. They don't create any chances for him. And I think that it's, as we all know, the graveyard shift. You know, there's nobody passing him the ball, and he looks frustrated. And I think that having another striker, maybe a different option, would really, really help him. I think it would give him a bit more time to settle in properly. It will give the team a bit more time to try and adjust to playing to having a striker that wants the ball, you know. And the story that's coming out this morning is that Manchester United scouts have been keeping tabs on Santos striker Marcus Leonardo, who was available in the January transfer window for £20 million. Now, anybody who's watched the show for a while will know that we spoke about this guy quite heavily in the summer, because he was really, really linked to Manchester United as well as linked to Roma over in Italy. The guy's 20 years of age, Brazilian. He's already in the Brazilian under-23 squad. Plays, as I said, for Santos, available for £20 million. He's had a very, very good season over in Brazil so far. He's got 25 goals and assists in 43 matches. So he's averaging a goal or an assist more than every other game at the moment, which is, you know, for a 20-year-old is decent. Now, some of you will say, oh, it's just the Brazilian league, it's not very good, blah, blah, blah. I still think that's a good return, you know, for a 20-year-old in the Brazilian league. I think that's pretty decent. I'm just having a look at what his stats were like the year before, because I know last year was his kind of prolific breakthrough season, and I think the year before actually was that better? Yeah, he got 27 goals and assists in 54 matches the season before. So over the last 1 or 2 years, at the age of 20, he's been averaging a goal or an assist every other game over in Brazil, which I think for £20 million, I think that's a fair price. You know, usually we see 60, 70, 80 million pounds, the kind of prices associated with Manchester United. But a £20 million striker, I think there's little to no risk with that. It would be another 20-year-old being brought in, another player for the future, somebody who could be here for 10 plus years if they do well. And I think that's what we need to start building this team around. We need to have younger, more players that we can develop and players that we can turn into the next Harry Kane or the next Victor Osimhen or whatever, because we've been burned so many times by bringing in these big name players who, let's be honest, a lot of the time come for the money. You think Alexis Sanchez, you think Di Maria, you think Lukaku. You bring in all of these players for, you know, top money, give them stupid wages, and then it just doesn't work. And I think we need to break that cycle. We need to bring in these young, hungry players who understand the opportunity they're being given to play at Manchester United. Like Rasmus Højlund, I think he understands, obviously being a Manchester United fan, what it means to play for Manchester United. And you can tell, right, even if he's not getting any goals at the moment, you can tell that when he goes out on that pitch, he gives 120% every single game. Whereas you saw people like Di Maria, Alexis Sanchez, like, there's no doubt that they're all good quality players. You know, they were some of the best in the world at that point in time. Lukaku, Di Maria, Sanchez, they were all top quality players, but they didn't have that drive anymore. They were just coming to cash in their paychecks, weren't they? And we need to break away from that cycle. So somebody like this Marcus Leonardo would be a great signing for me. Maybe the Santiago Jimenez from Feyenoord. He's another very, very good player who is apparently available in the January transfer window as well. But let me know in the comment section, guys. How important do you think it is that we bring in another striker? Do you think it's really, really essential? Do you think it's something that we could maybe wait till the summer? Let me know what your kind of priority positions are for the January transfer window, because if Jim Ratcliffe is announced by then, which we are anticipating that he will, we are expecting some signings to be made in January. I would expect at least a centre-back and a striker to come in. I would expect, obviously, Sancho to go. I would expect Donny van de Beek to go. I would expect potentially Scott McTominay to go if a big offer comes in. I'm thinking Newcastle, obviously they're desperately looking for a midfielder. You know, if you get a 40, 50 million pound offer for Scott McTominay, maybe Manchester United go and do that. Maybe they don't know. I mean, he's in a good run of form at the moment. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But over to Santiago Jimenez. Very, very good goal scoring record so far this season. He's got 15 goals and 3 assists in 14 matches for Feyenoord this season. He's got a release clause, I believe. I think it's 40 million euros. He looks like the real deal, to be honest with you. Only 22 years of age, Mexican international, obviously playing his football in the Eredivisie. His release clause is 40 million euros. Yeah, so 40 million euros release clause, which again, I think for a player of that quality who's, you know, the last 2 or 3 years been banging the goals in, both in the Champions League and in the Eredivisie, I think is a fair price. And I think, what's that, £34 million? I would have zero issues with that whatsoever. But let me know what you guys think about that. Let's see what people are saying in the chat this morning. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Please do smash a like on the video, everybody. Please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, if you haven't already. Red for Light says, late start at work this morning, so caught your morning show. Big ups, Reds. Big ups, mate. Hope you're doing good. Hope everyone is feeling okay this morning. I hope everyone is excited about the match tonight. Let's see what else everyone's saying in the chat today. Robert says we should wait until the summer. We need a centre-back and midfield players. I agree with you, but the thing is, right, we've got so many injury issues. We've got Lisandro Martinez is out. We'll talk about him in a minute. There's a big update on Martinez, which is actually not positive at all, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Obviously, Casemiro as well. There's a big injury update on him, which we'll talk about in a minute. Donny van de Beek is as good as gone. Eriksen, let's be honest, could only play 30 minutes, 40 minutes at a high level. Scott McTominay isn't a CDM. So now, in that CDM position, we've got Amrabat and we've got Amrabat and Kobe Mainoo, and that's pretty much it, because McTominay's hopeless there. I think he's quite good going forward, McTominay. I genuinely do. I think you stick McTominay in that centre attacking midfield position. I'm not saying I want to do that, but that's where he should be played if he's going to play, because he's absolutely pointless having on the pitch in the CDM role. Red for Life says we need a new left-sided centre-back as cover for Martinez. We need a new centre midfielder and a new striker. I would agree with all of that. I would also probably say that we need a new winger as well, because obviously Anthony isn't working. Sancho's going to leave. I would imagine that Pelistri and Ahmad, one of the two, will probably go out on loan. So when you then look at it, it will be Anthony, and that'll be the only option on the right wing, you know? Obviously, Garnacho plays on the left. Rashford plays on the left. There isn't really that many options on the right wing. Obviously, Sancho will leave. Anthony, I just don't think is good enough to start every game for Manchester United. I think we need competition. Al says, why didn't Erik ten Hag buy him last summer? Manchester United sent scouts to watch Santiago Jimenez, but Erik ten Hag didn't buy them. I don't think it's a case of him not wanting them, mate. I think the problem is money. The fact that we had to search around the back of the sofa to find £8 million to get Amrabat on loan, that just sums it up for me. The budget wasn't there because ultimately all of the transfers have been bought using credit cards. We're not even using our own money anymore. We make so much money as a football club, but the Glazers have taken so much that because of all the debt, because of all the other bits, we're having to borrow money to buy these players. So I think we did literally max out the budget last year, which is frustrating because we used to be able to pay, 150, 200 million every summer and we'd have no issues. But now we're literally having to borrow money to be able to buy our transfers. Somebody says we should buy Calvin Bassey of Fulham. Yeah, I think he looks all right. It's another Dutch. Is he Dutch? I know he came from the Eredivisie, didn't he? Yeah, is he Dutch? No, he's Italian. Okay, I thought he was Dutch for some reason. Yeah, I'm not massively convinced on that guy, but yeah, fair enough. Obviously, you're entitled to your opinion. Daniel says we need a new centre back and pray for sure to be back soon. Yeah, we're going to talk about the injury updates now. So, Erik ten Hag was talking to the press ahead of the game today, and there is some big news on the injury situation. And I'll be honest with you guys, it's not particularly positive. So the update is that apparently Casemiro and Martinez will not play again this year. So when I say this year, I mean obviously this calendar year. So we won't see Casemiro or Lisandro Martinez until 2024. So probably 2 months until we'll see either of them. I mean, it's a massive, massive blow. I know some people in the fan base have decided to start criticising Casemiro, which I think is wrong. I think he's one of our best players, if not our best player in that midfield position. You know, let's be honest, he's better than Amrabat. He's better than Eriksen. He's better than McTominay. Kobe Mainoo, obviously, it's not really comparable because Kobe Mainoo's an 18-year-old, so clearly he's better than Kobe Mainoo. But it's frustrating. It is. And, you know, you see Tottenham fans, right? Oh, Maddison's just got injured. Van de Ven's got injured. You know, they've just had 2 injuries from their starting 11, and they're all now going to blame that on why they won't win the league. I mean, look at Manchester United, right? We've had a terrible start to the season, but look at our defence. No Luke Shaw, no Martinez, no Varane, and no Wan-Bissaka until like a day ago. We've got a goalkeeper who's just come in who's a little bit all over the place, but getting better. You've got a midfield that's just lost our best midfielder. We didn't strengthen the midfield properly in the summer either, did we? Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, all these other teams have done really, really well with their injuries this season. We've been so unlucky. It's the most injuries I've ever remembered in a Manchester United season ever. To lose, you know, Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane, Wan-Bissaka, Casemiro, like 5 of your best players, let's be honest. They are 5 of our best players, if not the best players in each of those positions. You know, Luke Shaw's our best left back. Martinez and Varane are our best centre-backs. Wan-Bissaka's our best right-back. Casemiro's our best CDM. Like, we've lost all of these players for such a long period of time that it's so frustrating. And it brings me back to my point that I made on the show yesterday, that we really need to start prioritising youth now, I think. We need to start buying younger players because, yes, Casemiro's world class. Yes, I think he's our best midfielder, but he's 31 years of age now, right? There's a reason why Real Madrid let these types of players go. There's no doubt in the world that Casemiro is not a world-class player. He is. Just look at his trophy cabinet. He's won more than the rest of the Manchester United team combined, minus Rafael Varane, right? There's nobody on this planet that can't tell me he's world-class. But we've bought him at the twilight of his career. It's now where he probably should be looking to go to Saudi or to one of those types of countries. He's not a Ronaldo type player who can play in the Premier League till he's 36, 37, I don't think. I think he's one of those types of players that, you know, has been competing at the highest level for so long. I think now, with injuries and stuff, he is starting to deteriorate. And the thing you have to remember is, right, he's 31 now, but I'm just having a look. He's 32 in 2 months' time. So in 2 months, our best midfielder will be a 32-year-old Casemiro. I mean, is that really good enough for the Premier League? I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think that it's a massive, massive blow. It really, really is. But I would probably say that we should be looking to move him on, to be honest, in January now. If we're going to lose him for 2 or 3 months, I think we need to be prioritising getting younger players in who are less injury prone, because the same thing's happened with Varane. This has now happened with Casemiro. Like, it's pretty obvious that there's a cycle going on here. We bring in these players past their best who are clearly injury prone, and then we just have these same issues over and over again. Al says, are we getting injuries because Erik ten Hag works the players too hard without proper rest and rotation? I don't know, mate, to be honest. Who knows? We're never going to really be able to identify that, are we? I don't think you can blame Erik ten Hag, really. I think you could blame FIFA for putting a World Cup in the middle of a season last year. Remember that we went to the final of the FA Cup, the final of the League Cup, and the semi-finals of the Europa. I think we played more football out of any team in the whole of Europe. So is that Erik ten Hag's fault? Is it Erik ten Hag's fault that our bench last season was so poor that he felt we couldn't rotate? I don't think that's really Erik ten Hag's fault, because I think if he had have rotated, I think we would have finished out of the top 4. We probably wouldn't have won a trophy, and there'd be people in the fan base last season saying he should be sacked. So I think that Erik ten Hag last season was just trying to preserve his job. Whether that was the best thing for the players or not, for their fitness and all the rest of it, I don't really know. But he's not got the depth of squad that someone like Man City has. But yeah, just to be very clear, I really like Rafael Varane and I really like Casemiro, but I just think that this is now just a rotating circle where it just keeps happening over and over and over again. And to lose Casemiro for 2 months minimum, Erik ten Hag said the exact words were, "We will not see Casemiro or Lisandro Martinez again this year." So sometime in January we will see them again. That's devastating. It is, because I think both of them are 2 of our best players. And even when Martinez comes back, it's going to take him a while to get back to the level that he was last season. And there is always question marks, isn't there, with people when they have really bad injuries like this. Will he ever come back to the same level he was before? Is he going to keep picking up this injury? There always is that potential. Obviously, we hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, obviously that is a possibility and something we need to be aware of. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Darren says the preseason was too many games in a short space of time, not good preparation for the season. I would 100% agree with that, Darren, 100%. I think we played 8 matches in the space of like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it was ridiculous, you know? We were over in America, and they were going from East Coast to West Coast. They were playing games like 10-hour flights apart with massive time differences, like 48 hours between. I mean, it was really, really bad, but again, it was just another example of how Manchester United are a commercial club. The Glazers and the club would have made a ridiculous amount of money from that tour, from sponsors, from all of these types of deals and all the rest of it. So they were clearly focusing on how much money they could get out of the United players from a brand perspective versus what would actually be best to set us up for that coming season. And I think we just need to be aware of these types of things, you know, and not be like, oh, it's the manager's fault. Is it the manager's fault we played 8 or 9 matches in 2 or 3 weeks when most other teams played like 4? I don't think you can blame the manager for that because it's ultimately not his decision. He doesn't, you know, speak to brands and say, oh, we're thinking of doing an America tour. Like, he's just told, here are your fixtures for pre-season, get on with it. And that's up to him to then do. And in all fairness, right, he did rotate a lot in pre-season. You know, it was like, there was a lot of rotation. We saw a lot of those youth players, didn't we, play? There was a lot of people who I hadn't seen play before, which was nice. But still, it was a lot of games, a lot of travelling, you know, a lot of time difference, a lot of jet lag, probably a lot of, you know, little sleep, not very settled, probably eating different foods that they would normally. You know what I mean? You know what it's like when you travel. It's always a little bit disrupted, isn't it? You don't always get a good night's sleep, the time differences and all the rest of it. So I don't think we can really blame Erik ten Hag for that. Let's move on to this story about Jim Ratcliffe then. So the story is coming out from 2 or 3 different journalists in the UK this morning, and they're reporting that Jim Ratcliffe is planning to add 2 more clubs to his network within 12 months of his Manchester United takeover. So just to be very, very clear here, obviously he already owns Nice. He already owns, I think they're called Lausanne in Switzerland. So he's already got 2 football teams. Obviously, he wants to buy Manchester United. And now apparently he's going to buy at least another 2 clubs. So he'll have potentially 5 clubs under his control, which at first I was quite upset about. I still am quite upset about because I just want somebody who's focusing on Manchester United. I want somebody who's putting all of their resources into Manchester United, right? We're getting somebody who is only able to buy a quarter of the club. Somebody who's only willing to invest 250 million into a stadium that's falling apart and needs 1 billion minimum invested into it. We're getting somebody who's not going to clear our debt. We're getting somebody who is questionable about how much money he actually wants to invest into Manchester United. The list goes on and on and on and on, right? And then when you see stories saying that as soon as the Manchester United takeover is complete, he's going to then go and buy another club. Obviously, it won't be a Premier League club. It could be a club in the Liga. It could be a German club. It could be an Italian club. Like, we don't know who the club will be. But do you know what it just screams for me? It just screams that Manchester United is just another club in his portfolio. You know, it's like with a property. He's like a landlord. You know, he's just buying lots and lots of things. So he has this rich portfolio of football clubs that he can ultimately make money off and have a legacy off. You know, and say, oh, I own 5 football clubs. And I just feel a little bit like. I feel a little bit like we've been cheated a bit, to be honest with you, because I started to actually accept Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I did. I'll be honest with you. I thought Qatar is done. Fine. You know, maybe it was never even going to happen. Maybe it was, you know, fake. Maybe the Glazers were just trying to find out how much the club was worth. Maybe they didn't ever want to sell. I accepted that now. All right. Qatar isn't going to happen. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to be the 25% owner. And I started to think, you know what, maybe it could be good. Paul Mitchell as the director of football, Jean-Claude Blanc as the CEO. I'm open to it. Let's do it. Let's give it a try. Hopefully it's better than what the Glazers, are offering. Obviously, I put aside not clearing the debt, the disgraceful amount of money he's going to invest in the stadium, et cetera, et cetera. All of the question marks I just put aside for a bit because I think it was just breeding toxicity. And I thought that, you know, ultimately there's nothing we can do about it now, really, is there? People will say, oh, boycott the games, boycott the games. If the Glazers don't want to sell the club, they're not going to sell the club. You could boycott the games as much as you like, which is never going to happen anyway, and it won't make a difference. So I started to actually accept Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I was, you know, trying to look at it open-minded. But when you get stories coming out like this, like saying that he's ultimately going to go and buy 2 other football clubs as well as Manchester United. I just think like it's just frustrating. It is, because if he was coming in, buying all of Manchester United, clearing the debt, building a new stadium, investing X amount of money in the squad, I would say, you know what? You've done everything you should with Manchester United. Go and buy another club if that's what you want to do. And maybe we can have some sort of, feeder network where we loan players to them and then buy them off them. Like Red Bull Leipzig, right? Red Bull Salzburg, that kind of thing. Like maybe that could work. But for somebody who's not even giving us what we need as a club and as fans, right? The bare minimum, in my opinion, then how can he be in a position to go and buy other football clubs as well? I just don't. It just doesn't make sense for me, and it just screams that he's doing it for legacy and that he's doing it for his own ego, and he just sees Manchester United as a portfolio item. He just sees it as probably the prize of his portfolio. Let's have a look. Franco says Franco says Kieran, Manchester United will be the primary club in his portfolio, which means he would do everything to make Manchester United great again. I like your optimism. I do. I hope that you're right, but yeah, I hope you're right. Fred says he is not buying United, just 25%. This sums the man up for me. Yeah, I hear you, mate. I hear you. Somebody says, I'm not Ratcliffe, but it's good business, especially if he's serious about United. Him owning other clubs can be good with us loaning players, vice versa. I get that argument. I do. But the thing that I don't understand is what's happening with our debt. Answer me that. Somebody says your narrative doesn't make sense. Okay, well, I'll explain the narrative to you very, very simply. He's not clearing our debt, but yet he's going to go and buy 2 other football clubs. He's not giving us the money we need to build a new stadium or properly renovate Old Trafford. He's giving us 250 million. That's been confirmed. It's going to cost 1 billion minimum, but yet he's going to buy another football club. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, why? I'm trying to think of an analogy here which would make it a bit more, it's like if you bought a house, right? And you started doing the house up. You got halfway through doing the house, and then you said, oh, I'm not going to spend any more money on this house. I'm just going to go and buy another house. Do you see what I'm saying? Robert says, ask the Glazers what is happening with the debt. I don't really know what you're talking about, to be honest, mate, but fair enough. So yeah, I don't think it's good, to be honest. Moef says, I think it doesn't matter if he owns 2 more clubs, but he must put a clear strategy team for Man United and then the club will run itself. Yeah. And then Robert says he is only a 25% owner. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess then we just... if you're going on that narrative, then my whole thing of trying to be positive and optimistic just goes out the window. If you're saying, why are you blaming him? It's not his fault. Ask the Glazers. He's only a 25% owner. Then we may as well go back to the dark days of a couple of weeks ago where we're all sat here saying the club's over, Manchester United's dead. Like, if you want to go back to that whole narrative, then we can do that. But I genuinely started trying to be positive about this situation. I thought that, hopefully he would be able to do some good. But I just don't really understand how, somebody in his position who's not giving Manchester United everything they need is then going to go and spend his money on another football club. It just doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, put it this way, right? In the summer, the Nice fans were absolutely disgusted. They were disgusted that he was going to buy Manchester United. They were so upset. They were really, really upset about it. There was countless articles. I watched loads of videos with Nice fans, and they were saying that they're really disappointed. They feel that the club's been going, unloved and all the rest of it, and now he's going to go and put all his money in Man United. It's the same situation here, I mean, he's obviously not going to go and buy a bigger club than United because there isn't really one. But it just screams to me, right, that this is just a portfolio purchase to him. Whereas Sheikh Jassim, yes, it was for his portfolio of I own Manchester United, but he was going to be the sole owner of it, and that was the plan. Murph says he will own 4 clubs and want to be on the decision boards for all 4. Well, apparently it'll be 5 clubs. He owns 1 in Switzerland, 1 in Nice. He'll own Manchester United 25%, and then he wants to buy 2 more. So it'll be 5 clubs. Daniel says, I get Robert's point. He's saying it's not his debt to fix, but the issue is no one is removing the debt. Exactly. Scott says, I don't think they'll ever clear the debt. Yeah, exactly. That's my point here, right? He's not giving us what we need, is what I'm saying. Phil says, if you're renting, you can only do so much with repairs. The whole house is not yours. The Glazers are the house owners. Yeah, exactly. And the Glazers aren't going to do what's required of them. They're the landlords, aren't they? And they're the dodgy landlords who are unwilling to fix the broken tap or unwilling to change the carpet that's mouldy or whatever. You know, they're not willing to do that. And instead, they're trying to use Jim Ratcliffe as just a face of the anger. So when things start going badly, people will probably point the finger at Jim, won't they? They'll say, you were the one who facilitated these people. You were the one that kept these people in. And it will be all the hatred going towards him, whereas they'll just be sat there in their mansions over in Florida just chilling, won't they? Robert says Qatar would have been 100% owner and would have cleared all the debt. Exactly. And that's what we had, dangled in front of our nose. Obviously, it is what it is, and we can't do anything about it now. I'm just going to have a sip of water. All right. Everyone who's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, if you haven't already. Kiddo says, people need to understand that injuries do happen in sports. You don't look to get injured. It happens at any age, and that's why you need a squad of mixture of youth and experience. I would agree with that. Darren says, has there been any official announcement on Sir Jim Ratcliffe yet? Surely the New York Stock Exchange needs him to disclose when he has bought into the club. There has been no official announcement yet, but what we can say is this. Manchester Evening News were reporting yesterday that apparently Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been doing regular calls with Joel and Avram, video calls, meetings, discussing how the restructuring of the executives at the club will happen, i.e. removing John Murtagh and removing Richard Arnold. I would imagine that would happen almost immediately. Somebody says with Paul Mitchell and Jean-Claude Blanc as CEO and Director of Football, I can't see where it will go wrong. I would agree with that. I do. Fred says, Kieran, is there anything to stop the Glazers selling the club after Sir Jim buys 25%? Is there anything to stop the Glazers selling the club? Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's what a lot of the fans want to know. Is there going to be some sort of contract in place that says that they legally have to sell it to him in X amount of years for X amount of money? If that's the case, then I think we can go into it a little bit more open-minded. But for me, I think so. I think Jim wants to work with the Glazers. I think he's more than happy to get into bed with them. At the beginning of this whole process, he said, what great people they were, what great business people they were. I think he's more than happy to just own a piece of Manchester United and to run the club with the Glazers. And I think that we won't get clarity on that. If it gets announced today, the Glazers are going to sell in 1 year, blah, 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 then fine. I would be okay with that. And I would have zero issues, but I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think that we're just going to be waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And it will just be one of those things we talk about for the next 10, 20 years. Will the Glazers ever sell the rest of their shares to Jim? Al says, will Jim sell Nice players to United for cheap prices? He owns 25% of United, but 100% of Nice. Why favour United? Yeah, I agree with you there, to be honest. And the thing is, UEFA have just brought in a rule that says that an owner who owns two clubs can't sell a player to another club if they're going to compete in the same competition. So say Nice get Champions League football, which it looks like at the moment they will. They're top of the French league. And Manchester United somehow get Champions League football, right? Nice would not be able to sell Jean-Claire Todibo to Manchester United, for example. Obviously, they could in January because neither of them are in the competition now. But say in the summer, both clubs were in the Champions League, Nice wouldn't be able to sell any of their players to Manchester United and vice versa. Let's see what else we got. Robert says the whole Ratcliffe deal is stalling. It was supposed to be completed by now. Yeah, that does. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people saying they think it's going to fall through. I don't know, though. I'm not sure. Wesley says, I'd prefer Sheikh, but if it didn't happen, it's also good that Jim Ratcliffe will bring his experience in team sporting aspects and bring Paul Mitchell, a good sporting director, he'll bring to the club. I would agree with that. I am quite positive about Paul Mitchell and Jean-Claude Blanc. I think they will add massive, massive value to Manchester United. I'm very, very excited to see, Richard Arnold and John Murtagh go. Now, before people say, they're humans, they've got jobs, they've got families, they'll be paid off the rest of their contract. If Richard Arnold and John Murtagh are sacked, they will be compensated heavily financially. They'll get all of the money that they were owed for the remainder of their contract. So, don't by any means think that I'm sat here saying I want them to be homeless. Like, that's not going to happen. They'll be paid off their contracts. They'll get all of the money that they're owed, and they'll go. Ivo says, we're not getting Champions League football, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, but what happens if the season after? You know, what happens the season after that? What happens if Nice end up being a Champions League side for the next 10 years? And so do we, you know? Fred says, he says, do you think they'll sell to someone other than Sir Jim? No, I think it's Sir Jim now. I think we've just got to accept that. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back live at 6 o'clock today for your evening show. And then obviously I'll be live after the game as well tonight. So yeah, I'll speak to you all at 6 o'clock. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. This has been Daily Red Devil. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined me on the show this morning. Some really good conversation has been had. Please do get in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on everything we've discussed. And I'll speak to you all a bit later.